Monday, August 9th of 2021. This is Stoughton Plan Commission meeting. It looks like we do have a quorum. The first item of business, as you see on your screen, is the Plan Commission minutes from July 12th. I would entertain a motion to move the minutes.
It's so moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Motion by Robinson, a second by Schumacher. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed to the minutes? None opposed, that motion carries. Next item is City Council Representative Report. Alderperson Caravello, you have anything to report out?
Well, the first thing I have to report out is I still don't think I see Michael's screen, and no matter which of the options at the bottom of my screen I pick, I still don't see it. Although I do see a little rotating thingy that says Michael Stacy has started screen sharing, but it is just a black screen. So I don't know.
Anybody else? Anybody else seeing the screen?
I see Michael.
Yeah, I see him.
I see him.
Yeah, I see Michael, but aren't we supposed to see it? Isn't the agenda supposed to be up?
I got status of developments up there right now.
I can see that status of development in the agenda.
Okay.
Phil, try to pause your video. That might loosen up some bandwidth on it and get it to download.
Also, Phil, on the top of the screen, not the bottom, there's a view options that allows you to switch how you're seeing the meeting.
Aha. Now if I can just make that bigger.
Todd, did your daughter teach you that trick?
No, I just kept poking around.
What?
Aha.
I know, but
Todd,
way to make the screen bigger.
Todd, you have made the magic happen.
All right. Good.
Okay, yes. So back to the actual council report. At the July 13th City Council meeting, Ordinance 15 and Ordinance 16 of 2021 both passed. And at the July 27th council meeting, Resolutions 105 through Resolutions 109 of 2021 all passed. And that's my report.
All right, thank you. Next is staff reports, which are on the screen. Anybody have any questions for us on that? Looks like a couple of the items we'll be talking about tonight. We'll move on to item number 5, which is the request by David Bear of Prairie Construction LLC for approval of the conditional use to allow commercial indoor lodging use at 210 Water Street. We will have a need for a public hearing, but before we do that, somebody kind of want to walk us through this project a little bit. Let us know what you're up to.
I'd love to do that. My name is David Bear. I'm not yet the owner of this property, but plan to purchase the property in the event this is approved. I reside at 2616 Happy Valley Road, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. I have had the chance to speak with several of you before. I do represent Habitat for Humanity, so I've helped them to buy, that's through my real estate broker capacity, Able Court, and we've worked on other projects in Stoughton. And in addition to that, I own the SWAC building. The owner approached me on this building several months ago. I particularly like the location. I love the Yahara River behind it. I had an opportunity to take my 4 children and my wife kayaking on it on Sunday. We are doing more and more of our asset types into the short-term rental, and it's been good. It's been successful. We do have a dedicated staff to handle any questions, concerns for those renters. So it's 24 hours a day that they have an opportunity to speak with someone from my company. We have an automated system on our own through our own website, but then we also work with the likes of Airbnb and VRBO. I'm enamored by the space. I think it's going to be very eclectic and highly desired. We're going to still keep some of those influences of the 1868 construction and add more. really what we want to accomplish is to have some sleeping areas and then also embrace a full kitchen for those that would like to come and spend not only one day, but ideally 2, 3, or more days downtown Stoughton, spending their good hard-earned money.
All
I'd
right.
love to answer any questions on that.
Okay. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Are there any plans for any exterior changes such as additional exterior lighting or signage?
We would change the signage. So our company name is Bear House. So that's the company name that spans across our hotel and our short-term lodging businesses. So the Cully's name would change. And then my initial plan, but I'm open to suggestions, was just to make sure that all of the existing lighting is working properly and has really what's the highest safe voltage LED lighting, so we can have it be nicely lit for the sidewalk in front.
So that it sounds like perhaps exterior illumination per square footage might go up.
I think so. You know, from what I believe as it stands currently, there's a light underneath the 210, the 212, and the 214 entryways. And then there's the 3 lights that are above the Cully's sign. So we would use those existing fixtures and install LED lighting.
The reason I ask is my understanding is that the structure next door is formerly a bar and now is a single family residence. Is that correct?
Are you talking about
I think that is
220?
correct.
If you're looking at the picture, there's a structure just to the left. I think it used to be mod, perhaps. It used to be a bar, I understand, and now I'm told it's a single family residence. No,
No, that's not true.
that's not true. Oh,
That's the
okay.
building that we own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is in that building?
On the first floor is my private tattoo studio. And then on the second floor is where we live.
Okay.
It's never been a bar.
Oh, okay.
I think Cully's was the bar.
Gotcha.
So if I can jump in with 2 questions. One is a follow-up on the exterior modifications. I'm curious on the storefront windows, particularly on the right side or the north side of the building. I know a lot of times when there's talk of converting storefront or commercial space to residential space or lodging, then those larger storefront windows are not really conducive to that kind of use, and they end up getting closed in. Are we making any changes to those windows or the transparency on the first floor?
Not planning to. So on the right-hand side, which is the 210 entrance, we're going to use the existing bar and incorporate that into the kitchen. So that space will effectively serve as the kitchen dining area. And then on the left-hand side is where we would incorporate a sleeping area and more of a, let's call it a lounge area. So I don't plan to change the front elevation. The windows have actually stood up fairly well. The current owner, when he took a vinyl window, he painted it and he clear coated it. And it is a newer upgraded window. And the bulk of the facade was prepared with basically the plastic wood. Sometimes it's called AZAC. I'm not sure if that's the exact brand name that was used. So overall, I want to touch up on the window trim just to make sure the building looks and shines as it should. I do know there are several areas in and around the building. I spoke with Rob about that on Sunday. He's been a very good watch person over this building. I know it needs a roof. I know it needs some coping, and I know it also needs some siding repairs and replacement throughout the building. I do own a construction company, and I plan that we can capably handle those repairs.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question for now until the public hearing is, so do I understand it is you're proposing one large unit that would encompass the entirety of the first floor, but there's no mention of how the second floor would be used? Would that be another overnight lodging opportunity on the second floor as well? Or how many opportunities do we see within the building for overnight lodging?
Just the main floor. my intention, while the upstairs apartments are, I'm going to call them functional, but also needing some repair and attention, I don't believe their highest and best use is a short-term rental. I think their highest and best use is just an annual type rental, as they have been used historically.
Thank you.
Or annual or month to month, right? But not short-term, to describe it accurately.
All right, are there any other questions from commissioners before we go into the public hearing? All right, hearing none, we'll close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing. Now, I don't have anybody signed up to speak, but if there is somebody that's in the meeting that would like to speak, we would just ask you to state your name for our records, and you would have up to 3 minutes to speak on this issue.
My name's Rob Byer at 220 South Water Street, right next to where Dave's proposing his venture. The only thing I have to ask you, Dave, that I forgot to ask you yesterday is when you described that open concept for people to sleep, is it going to be a hostel?
No, it won't. So on the left hand, we have really it's easy in the back of the building and what was used as a smoking room for years, right? That one we can very easily configure to have what we feel is a bunk bed and I believe a king size bed. On the left hand side, my intention is that we would split that room approximately in half, creating one bedroom that would be towards the river, and that would have access to the private balcony. And then that front area would be more of the living room space. And in that living room space, we'd have a fold out couch or pull out couch.
Okay.
So we're not having the group sleep. We found that doesn't resonate as well, right? We have some large properties where there are, for example, one in Merrimack where the third floor is 6 twin beds. I think that works well in the context where it has other private sleeping areas. But I don't believe that works well in a standalone scenario.
Okay.
If that makes sense, right? Where
that makes
I think
sense.
people are.
Yep. Just the way that I understood the way you described it yesterday, it sounded like military barracks.
Yeah, and there might be a time and place for that. In our travels, we've looked at facilities that work that way. I don't think that's what the community of Stoughton is looking for in this instance. I don't think that's what our people want.
Cool.
Anybody else wish to speak during the public hearing? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and reopen
Hello?
Oh, does somebody wish to speak?
Yes, I didn't remember what I was supposed to press, so I kind of thrashed around. But my name is Emily Barr, and I have a question about the management, the regular ongoing management of who checks these people in that are going to be the short-term residents. What is the plan for the day-to-day management and kind of the person who would get the complaints from anybody if there was a complaint? I don't mean from neighbors, I mean anyone who is there any management structure planned or in place or at any of your other places? Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you manage the other situations you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very good question. So what we generally do when we book a reservation, they're given a very thorough and detailed introduction to the property. And that includes an access code to gain entrance to the door. And that's through a program that we use. We like Schlag in code. And the reason for that is we can change it frequently, right? So we feel it's a very safe program. We can change it often and as often as we need. We do have a full-time devoted, her name's Julie. So she's devoted to our short-term rental housing. She's on call 24 hours a day, and she'll handle text, call, or email at any time from any resident. For example, if they can't get in the door, right? I mean, it's happened before that people are locked out. We have staff and offices in Sun Prairie. We also have what we call basically standard conventional housing our management companies there. It's called Ursa Management. And several of our employees are within close enough proximity that if there is an emergency, we could have someone there in 30 minutes.
All right, thank you for the question. Are there any other, anybody else like to speak at the public hearing?
Could I ask one
I
more
have,
question?
oh,
Sorry.
yes, you go ahead and then I have another question.
Ladies first.
Thank you. What is your anticipated nightly rental rate for anybody who's going to get a passcode to be able to enter the building?
That's a good question. So I'm anticipating we're 250 to 400 per night. And we find that that's based upon what we're seeing in other communities that we're in. So 250 for a weeknight and 400 for a weekend.
And what do you provide for that draws that kind of revenue or that kind of amount of money? That's relatively high when somebody could rent a typical motel room for half of the 200, for 100 or less.
Yeah,
what
it's a good
do
question.
you provide?
So we're fully furnished. We have a coffee bar. We do generally work closely with neighboring businesses to offer incentives, restaurants, bars, etc. So we do find that the market will prove that out pretty regularly. We just rolled one out on the Fox River about 2 weeks ago with a similar pricing format. It's a little bit smaller, but I would consider that to be an inferior community to Stoughton, and we found that pricing is right in line.
Part of the reason
And
you
the
could,
parking,
part of the reason
that
you
you
can
would
charge
have
that,
available.
We will be advising guests that they can park across the street in the city park.
Okay, thank you.
You have a comment, Todd?
just a clarification, I think part of the reason that the rate might be higher is that you can fit, I believe in the write-up, it said there would be 8 people who could stay here, which is more than you'd have in a typical hotel room.
Okay. And then Rob,
And
did
it's
you
on the
have,
river. Sorry,
Right.
sorry to interject there.
sure.
They have to
Rob,
put a
did you have
van down there. Are you gonna put up surveillance cameras?
We do have cameras, yes. So we have a doorbell that is activated. So at minimum, we'll have on the entrance door cameras. Yeah. On this one, we may opt to do something along the waterfront as well. I think it's a good practice for us to be aware of what's going on all parts of the property.
Because that's what we're installing, is surveillance around our entire building.
Yeah, I think it's more is more there. I have not physically sat down and committed exactly the locations, but certainly we want to be careful of what's going on, mindful of what's going on.
All right. Any other comments during the public hearing? Otherwise, I'll close the public hearing. I'll reopen the regular meeting. And I just had one quick question. So on this remodeling, are you going to be required to get a building permit and have it inspected as such?
I will, yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to say, I think this is a fascinating use for a really unique and wonderful building downtown.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so at this point, we'd be looking for a recommendation to city council on whether or not to approve the conditional use permit. I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robinson, is there a second?
I'll second Tom's motion.
And a second by Schumacher. Any questions or comments before the vote?
I have one question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Is this something that still comes before us in terms of any kind of design changes that might later be proposed to the outside of the building? I am concerned that, we heard verbally that there would be no change to the transparency or window massing on the first floor. Want to make sure that, I think with design changes that would come before the commission later, correct?
It would not.
Or it would not?
No, it's not in the downtown design overlay zoning district.
Oh, this is removed from that, Tom. Okay.
Yep, this is just out of it.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, that motion does carry. Item number 6 and 7 are both coming from Jessica Vaughn from JSD. The first one is the review of the concept plan for lot 27 at Kettle Park West. Jessica, the floor is yours.
Hey, good evening. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I always love technology these days. It's so much fun. I'll apologize for my dog if he starts barking here. So I'll start with that. Okay, so before you this evening is a updated concept plan for lot 27 in Kettle Park West. That was initially presented at the June 14th Plan Commission based on the feedback that we heard. And I wasn't there, but I do have Brent Ellison on the line who is representing Forward Development Group, and he can chime in a little bit here too if we have some additional questions. But based on the Plan Commission feedback on June 14th, we updated the concept plan to incorporate enhanced pedestrian connectivity to the overall multi-use path system within the city and Kettle Park West, as well as minimizing overall site coverage and paving. And with that, that led us to kind of re-looking at the building footprints that we were proposing. So originally what you saw were 6 4-unit buildings, and what you're seeing today are 3 8-unit buildings. We still have the same unit count. What this shift allows us to do is pursue conventional zoning with the conditional use permit for multiple principal buildings on one site. So with that, we wanted to put this in front of you one more time before we move forward with our site plan review and our conditional use permit. And so we're open to comment.
All right, are there any initial questions or comments at this point from commissioners?
I have one, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
In the last time you guys were before us, we had I believe we had the fire chief who was also online on the phone, and he had mentioned wanting the dog leg out of the entrance drive. But in this particular concept, the drive looks exactly the same as the last concept. And so I'd like to remind and point out the fact that from a fire access, there was a request by the fire department to have that straightened out. And so
Okay.
I'd like.
That's something that we can definitely take a look at as we move forward. I will say we did run a training template on this for the Stoughton largest fire truck, and this actually does work, but we can definitely look at refining the plan to remove the dog leg.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, and help me out here, Michael. This one here, it's a concept plan. So we're just looking for feedback tonight?
Yeah, yep, it's just feedback.
All right, so we have one piece of feedback. Is there anything else from commissioners?
No, Todd got the dog leg idea that I remember from the last discussion with this one.
All right, everything else?
I do have a question.
Oh, sure, Alderman Maskey, go ahead.
Okay, so we have an issue with this dog leg by the fire department, and that's understandable. And so we get an emergency vehicle in there. How are they getting it out? I mean, you've got this dog leg, which is pretty minor. And they said that they've done the calcs or whatever it is for a modeling on it to make sure they can get in there. You know, it's like, I find it kind of odd that they're worried about getting in but not getting out. How are they going to turn it? They're worried about a large vehicle getting in there. How are you going to turn it around? How are you going to get it out? Just out of curiosity. I'm not putting this on you and I'm putting this on the city. saying, you're asking for a demand, but it doesn't seem logical to me. It's like you're demanding for this access in, and you can't get you're not going to get a vehicle turned around in there to get it out. Am I totally off base here?
Jessica, did you have that conversation with the chief?
I haven't actually spoken with the chief directly, and Brent, I don't know if you had a conversation, but the access drive, the clear path of travel through the site is 24 feet at a minimum. And then there is a turnaround located at the far, I think it's the south side of the site. You can see that kind of rectangular piece there that will accommodate truck turning. It will be a wide turn without a doubt, but the fire truck should be able to maneuver through there and turn around to come back out head first. But as part of our site plan review process, that's a conversation we can certainly have with fire.
Yeah, we'll make sure to meet with the fire chief on that.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll go to the next item, which is a request for a concept plan for lot 2 and 3.
Sure. So I'll let Michael pull it up here. You guys are moving quick tonight.
Yeah, let's try that.
There we go. I got it. Does everybody else have it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So similarly, this one was also presented at the June 14th Plan Commission meeting as a concept plan. Based on the feedback, we wanted to present the additional info that was talked about at that meeting, which included massing diagram as well as the amenities plan for the site. So what we did here is we updated this concept to really utilize the wetland as an open space amenity with walking trail and enhanced pedestrian connectivity to the surrounding development. We incorporated some additional larger amenity space right in front of the building adjacent to it, thinking that that would likely be the area for potential grill stations, bike repair stations. We also incorporated some sort of trailhead amenity for folks moving from the site through the wetland and that kind of natural trail system there. And then, like I said, we wanted to provide the additional information with regard to massing study to give the commission a sense of what the proposed 4-story building looked like in relationship to the surrounding Walmart and 1-story commercial that was recently approved, as well as the hotel across the street. So with that, we're looking for additional feedback on massing scale, kind of the site design oriented questions, knowing that we've provided a couple of new items on the site, as well as the additional information.
Any thoughts or comments from commissioners?
No question.
This is Todd. I can start if that's okay, or Tom wants to go.
My question is can we go back to the overhead view? Where is snow storage going for the parking lot?
So you have a couple of parking lot islands, and then you have some space in the around the wetland that could accommodate snow storage, as well as the buffer kind of between Walmart and the lot 2.
Is there a preference?
Well, my only concern is that, I can see them piling it on next to the wetland so that we have a really nice salt catch for the wetland, and it would be a degraded wetland in a very short period of time. So,
okay,
that's my concern.
So
Okay.
you prefer to have the snow storage away from the wetland, probably toward the Walmart?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Tom, before we move to?
No, thank you so much.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner Barman.
So first, I want to thank you for the massing diagram. That was one of my requests. And I think it really helps to see your 4-story multifamily in relation to the hotel across the street. Because I was thinking more about the fact that goes 1-story commercial on your properties there to the 4-story and then back down to 1-story. But with the hotel across the street, then I think I'm much more comfortable with the relationship of those two buildings with each other. So thank you for that. I do like the trail system that wraps around and the trailhead kind of amenity space that's at that corner that you've identified. But it would seem to me that there might be an opportunity to make a little bit more direct access to that trail system. It looks like the only way I can get at it is if I walk south along the sidewalk that goes across that amenity space in front of the units and all the way down to the sidewalk at the lower part of the property, and then I can connect up with the trail system. It would seem like closer to where your handicap stalls are or where some of those islands are near the garage entrance to the building, that there might be just a place to put either a colored paving or a crosswalk and another little spur of the trail that would connect up to where people might come more directly from the building to the trail system. But other than that, I like the improvements.
Thank you.
All right, any other thoughts or feedback from commissioners?
I have one more.
Sure, go ahead.
Where is the refuse pickup on the site?
So I'll hand that one off to Brent. I'm not sure if they've gotten as far as determining whether that will be rolled out refuse bins from the garage or whether that's going to be an on-site surface trash enclosure type area. But Brent, can you address that?
We have not specifically located that yet, but we have done both successfully. I think there is an opportunity to do it either that initial underground parking stall where you can just roll it out, or just outside of that and on the driveway on the way down.
Is there a preference, Tom?
No, I'm just curious, that's all.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything.
And I don't know if there's anything, from a code standpoint, Michael, that would give them any direction, or do they have options?
Yeah, it's really their option. If it's outside, they got to have the enclosure. If it's inside, they don't have to worry about an enclosure. So.
All right. Any other thoughts or feedback for Jessica or for Brett? Okay, I guess I'm hearing none. So what's the next steps for both of these?
Well, for this one, we'd anticipate a GDP, a general development plan, coming forward. The other one is straight zoning, lot 27. So at some point there'll be a site plan review for that one.
All right. And do you have a timetable, Jessica, on either one of these? I guess I'm not hearing you, so
I could jump in. We'd be tracking for the next meeting. We take this feedback and revise it as timely as we can to get onto the next available meeting. So.
All right. So you're looking at developing this year yet?
Okay, Jessica says she just got kicked off accidentally. The lot 27, we would potentially start foundations this fall if the timing works out. Lot 2 and 3, the GDP process would put us into next spring, is my understanding, for construction.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like they're making good progress out there on the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there'll be some single family homes starting construction out there this year.
Okay. And then on these units here, remind me, with these market rate?
Yes, the multifamily be market rate, studio, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the commissioners? All right, hearing none, the future agenda items? Do you have anything on your list, Michael?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, well, it sounds like some of these will be coming back. So I guess we'll look for them and then kind of go from there. Anything from the commissioners?
Can we briefly discuss meeting format, virtual versus in person?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get some direction from the city council tomorrow night. It was unclear to me on whether or not the council rules pertain to our commissions. Because commissions do have their own statutory authorities, but I don't know if the virtual meeting hybrid policies that the city council have pertain to the commissions as well. So I'm looking for clarification from our city attorney.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Because I think there's a preference to, at least my understanding, a couple of weeks ago, there was a preference to do at least an in-person or a hybrid. The policy would allow us to do that. And then at that point, we have to determine, and it might be up to the individual whether or not they prefer to be in person or if they want to log in. We'll have an opportunity for both if the proposed policy goes through tomorrow night.
My
Sure.
preference would be that if you have if you go with that we have a hybrid, because with the latest information from the CDC, I'm personally not going to feel comfortable coming in.
Okay, so we'll keep that in mind. And, with the plan commission, it's a smaller group than the city council. So for those that'll be comfortable that will be able to come into the room, there'll be more spacing available. So I think we can spread out a little bit. And one of the reasons you notice we switched to Zoom tonight is that the equipment for our TV station, which also operates the microphones and the cameras in the room, the Zoom is compatible. The GoToMeeting format is not compatible. So that's why we're switching to Zoom in order to accommodate the hybrid meetings. So we'll know a little bit more tomorrow night. We'll try to get some clarification. And then we'll let you know by the next meeting. Anything else for future agenda items? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Majewski, was there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Michael, did you catch a second?
Robinson.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Right.
Night.
Record.